So what is going on, guys? I have been working off camera on some of these suspension parts because what I was doing was quite boring and not worthy of being on camera. So after I let them soak, I pulled them all out, I wiped them down. They're still looking pretty dirty and grimy, but most of the grease is gone from them. It's mostly just rust and old paint now. I got the ball joints out, which I fought for forever with. I had to let them soak in PB Blaster. I heated them and then used pipe wrenches to get those off. I also got the struts out, which I also fought with. Same deal, used a pipe wrench to get those off. But everything cleaned up real nicely, but I want them to be bare metal so that I can repaint them and make them look actual nice. So I'm gonna take them to work. We have a media blaster there. I'm gonna media blast everything so it's pretty much just raw metal. And then I can do my modifications to everything and then paint them. Now I unfortunately have not gotten my ball joints yet because the mail carrier for some reason decided that the address wasn't good enough, even though when the people who shipped it sent me a picture of it and the address was perfect, so whatever. But that's coming in probably Monday, and then I can fully assemble everything again. So I'm trying to get it done this weekend so that I can actually put it back in the car and have it driving again. So I'm gonna get all this stuff loaded up into the back of the car over there, and I'm gonna drive down there. I'm probably gonna not end up filming most of this because it's my work or whatever, but yeah, I'll see you when it's all, hopefully, all in bare metal and ready to be painted. It's a long time later, same day, but I've been back for a few hours, but here's everything nicely cleaned up. There's still a little bit of stuff on them, but they are completely clean for the most part. I really want to cut off these welds and try to move this spindle up on the shaft tonight, but it's a little bit late and I don't want to be waking up all my neighbors grinding and banging. So the one thing that is left to disassemble is get these bushings out, and they don't want to budge. This is how far about half an hour of prying got me. I didn't want to melt them out, so I'm just going to try to heat them up and see if I can get them to pop off that way. If not, I'm going to have to burn them out. But it looks like I should just be able to heat them up and pry them off, so let's start struggling with that, I guess. So apparently that's how you do it. So I bent the collar a bit, one missed blow and that happened, but I got it off. So heat was the trick. Now I just get to struggle with 3 more of those. Once you get them up to temp, they sort of just slide off. Not super easily, but I've definitely had to deal with worse. And then once that's off, the actual rubber bushing is not on there very tight. So I had a little bit of time to think and do some researching, and part of the plan for this suspension setup was to take this spindle and raise it. I'm thinking about 25 millimeters now on this strut tube. And normally how you do this on like a Bilstein strut from a 914 is you cut it off, press it up, and then re-weld it. However, the lower tube, which extends all the way up to the top of the spindle here, and the upper tube are 2 separate diameters, so you cannot do that. So in order to raise the spindle in relation to the ball joint, you have to actually cut a section, so you have to section the tube and then cut it down here and weld it in on the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm thinking about doing 25 millimeters or so. I might go all the way up to 30 since I'm running 16-inch wheels. Basically when you do this, you decrease the clearance in between the lower control arm and the wheel, so you gotta make sure you have the right size wheels. But I'm going to chop this up in the chop saw that I have so that it's nice 90-degree angles and weld it back together. Hopefully all goes well. I'll gusset it and everything nice so that it's not going to fall apart on me. But yeah, a lot of people seem to be doing this with like worse welders than me, you know, like flux core and that sort of thing. So I'm not too worried about strength. I'll probably end up adding some gussets on here and then maybe plating the outside where I weld it as well. But let's get measuring and cutting this thing apart, I guess. So I went in just with an angle grinder with a flap disc, and I beveled all the edges of the pieces, including on the strut tube itself. And I'm just going to use these magnets to make sure it lines up straight. I'm going to tack weld it in first, and then test fit the strut itself and make sure that the strut fits in there, slides in and out nice and easily, and then I'm going to run the full bead. Between each one, I will double check with the strut fitment because I really want to make sure I don't screw anything up. But this should be a relatively simple process. I beveled these edges so that the welder will penetrate nice and easy. It's a good thickness steel. It's not like sheet metal or anything, but it should be really easy to weld actually, just because of the material and everything and being nice and clean after the media blaster. But I'm gonna start welding these up. This is the passenger side, so I'll start with passenger side, go to the driver's side, but they're both ready to go. I'm making quite a mess in here though. Those cheap discs just shred to pieces and are disgusting, but yeah, let's get this thing all welded up. So that is actually turning out to probably be some of the best welding I've done yet to date. Looks quite good. Very solid. You can see the coloring goes deep into the steel, so ideally that means there's good penetration. And actually the welds don't look half bad either. So believe it or not, I am still not completely done with these uprights. Now that the spindle has been raised, essentially about 28 millimeters in relation to the tube, the tie rod end is now going to be angled up. You can see I'm cooking hot wings, but the tie rod end is going to be angled up in relation to the control arm. So in order to mitigate that, some people bend this arm down. They heat it up with like an oxyacetylene torch, something like that, bend it down. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use the traditional ball joint style outer tie rod end. I'm going to use a Heim joint or a spherical rod end. And in order to capture that, the best way to use a spherical rod end is to have two capture points. So what I'm going to do is weld a plate on the bottom of here that comes out and has a hole in it, and then I'll have a long bolt with a bunch of spacers so that I can move basically that tie rod end anywhere from here to here, and that will be my outer tie rod end, so it's adjustable. I don't have a spherical rod end yet that will fit onto the inner tie rod ends. I'm still looking for one. I think I found some. I just need to go order them. But that's why I haven't made that yet. So these are going to stay all raw steel for now, because no use in painting it and then having to grind it off to weld on it again. So these will be unpainted. However, all my other suspension components, I've got the middle section there, whatever it's called, my two control arms, all these control arm bushings, and then I have a whole box full of everything else that came off, like the backing plate for the brakes and the dust covers for the struts. That is all going to get painted, so I'm going to start on that now, turn this place into a little paint booth. So it definitely needs some cleaning up, some dusting, And I'm gonna get spraying those. Before I spray these, I'm gonna clean up these a little bit. These are gonna stay raw steel since that's where the bushing rides, but I still wanna clean it up a bit and you know, wipe down and clean everything before giving it a nice coat of paint. As you saw, everything is painted except for my spindles, but everything's looking awesome. It's all super glossy and looks really nice. Being able to media blast everything before I painted it made a big difference because it just gave me, you know, like the perfect surface in order to paint. But I have all this, and then I have that main center bar right there. So that's where I'm going to end it off today because it is foggy in here. It is late and time for me to go to bed, I think. I think I got quite a bit done today. I mean, I modified both of my struts, got them welded together. Now all I have to do is add the bump steer kit or whatever. So I need to track down some heim joints and everything, make sure the ones that I'm looking at are the ones that I want, and then I can weld up that set and paint those and put it all back together. My ball joints didn't come in, but they're coming in tomorrow, so as soon as those come in, I'm pretty much ready to put it all together. I've got some of this stuff over on the shelf there. Actually, I think of it, everything over on the shelf there. I also have to make another, what do we call it, drop link for my sway bar, but that is neither here nor there. Now, I also want to redo all of this because, as you can see, the inner fender well is a little bit ugly. So before I bolt everything back in, I definitely want to strip all this down, re-undercoat it, and make it look nice again. So I'll be doing that. But yeah, this should all be dry tomorrow, and then I'll have all my parts, besides my heim joints. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So thanks for sticking around for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the above. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.